there, welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy Podcast. My name is Jed, and today we are back in the Jesus and Socrates, A Dialogue in Heaven book. You might be, if you are watching along with the channel in real time, you might be asking, hey, what about all the other books that we've started to read? We're reading the Symposium. We're reading the book, Is It All Relative? Which is super important because one of the fundamental false beliefs of our age that is a root cause of tyranny, oppression, suffering, and genocide is there is no right and wrong when it comes to ethics, morality, politics, and religion. That's just all a matter of opinion and belief, right? There's no objective model and standard of truth, of what benefits the soul, of what allows human beings to meet all of their needs in harmony with each other and the world. There's no objective standard of truth and excellence for human beings as there are for, mechanics fixing a car or surgeons fixing a body. There's definitely not an objective standard of truth or benefit, goodness, excellence, and harmonious living, or ethics and morality that must be understood by all politicians and religious leaders. Just let them do whatever they want. Don't be rude. Of course, the opposite is true. It's that sloppy way of thinking and that false belief that's fundamental to our culture that is one of the root causes of all of the terrible things that we're seeing in the world. Hey, no politics or religion at the table. Why? Isn't that the most important thing to understand? Isn't that what benefits all of us? Well, if we're told there is no standard, just believe a priest or believe a king and never challenge any other cultures, then, you're just left debating personal opinions and beliefs. But if it's something that you can absolutely understand and verify that understanding and experience, well, there must be an intelligible model. That's called the Logos. On this channel, we follow the Logos. The implications being, we need to do two things. Number one, address that fundamental false belief that prevents rational reflection and good behavior, good functioning, prevents us from challenging tyrants and dictators and fascists and mass murderers. As well as the second thing, a very important thing that's lacking in our culture, after removing that false belief, what is the model? What is the paradigm of truth? For every politician, wherever and whenever you happen to be, or every religious person, or someone speaking as a religious authority, wherever and whenever you happen to be, because the divine is eternal. The nature of mind is eternal. The self is not something that changes with cultural beliefs. It's always the same. So people, oh no, slavery is okay in some cultures. Nope. That's not true. That's the paradigm of the Logos for what's true about self and reality that we need to establish as a paradigm or model for every political or religious authority, and that we can all look at together. How do we discover it? Understanding. How can we all share in it? Do you have to believe? Nope, you don't have to believe anything. It's a model of understanding. And it might even turn out to be understanding itself. Because understanding is what solves problems, and understanding is needed to reach excellence. We know that for surgery and being a mechanic, or being a Formula One racer. You have to understand the car and how to race to fix problems. And the more you understand how to be a Formula One driver, the better you'll be. Why have we chosen to ignore that for the soul? So that's the Is It All Relative book that we're reading on this channel. Super cool, super important. So we're doing that. We're also started the symposium. Ticking that box, make sure you have your nose in a Platonic dialogue. So we're ticking that box, but then we also have this book on the table too. Jesus and Socrates, a Socrates and Jesus dialogue in heaven. And I can't get enough of this book. So I've done like 3 or 4 of these in a row. And that's why. It's just so good. It's amazing. And I can't quite put into words how amazing it is. In fact, that was my problem when Pierre was alive and it was just published, and he asked me, what do you think of the book? And I said, it's an amazing book. It's the best book I've ever read, but I can't really put words on why. There were a bunch of things I was seeing, and I did recognize that this kind of a book is very different than any other book, especially in how it ends. But now I can put a little bit more words on why it's so amazing. Here's one. What we are learning about what is true, understanding that we are human beings, all of us, in a mean point between our barbaric caveman evolutionary roots and evolving from belief-based thinking into understanding-based thinking, because understanding can be applied to intelligibility or pure consciousness, the realm, the dimension of being. And it's from that brilliant light of pure being that understanding comes. It's derived from that, the logos which exists in being. So understanding is needed to solve problems. We still have problems. We still have genocide. And the Nazis are taking over America right as the time of recording. Rounding up everyone who looks different than the most ignorant people's families. So we still have terrible, terrible problems that could be solved like this with the application of understanding. But our issue as human beings is we still have that 1 foot in belief. So objectively speaking, not personally, not my personal perspective or belief, Socrates has been saying it, Pierre Grimes has been saying it, but what's more important is it's something that we can all understand because it's true. The meaning of life or the destiny of man is to move from belief-based thinking, us versus them, inside the cave, safe, good, blind obedience to cave leader, yes, don't go outside the cave. Now, before we could reason, before we had language, that might have been a useful way of being because we weren't getting eaten by saber-toothed tigers outside the cave. But that's the way of being of MAGA. That's the way of being of the Zionists. That's the way of being of Nazis. That's the way of being of sexists and racists. That is, everything familiar to what I grew up when I was a little kid, what I grew up with, and my daddy, king priest of the house, that's good and safe. Everything different is bad and mean and scary, and I should be afraid of it. Ever seen Fox News? You are at war. Scared, fear. The others, the immigrants, the browns, the non-Christians. Oh, and now you can be the dumbest person in the world. We'll give you a gun and a vest and you can go and abduct anyone you want, so long as they're not pure white. They look a little bit brown, you can kidnap them and abuse them and grape them and all sorts of terrible, terrible things. And then at the end of it, we're going to ship them over to concentration camps. It's literally what's happening here. That is simply a level of human cognition called belief-based thinking. And the name of the kind of belief that prevents us from changing that injustice, blinds us from reason, is called a pathologos. The art of uncovering and removing it is called philosophical midwifery. Philosophical midwifery is the application of dianoia, understanding, through the dialectic. Once free of what binds us to ignorant, savage, caveman, belief-based thinking, once free of that, we can then continue to develop understanding. allowing us to understand ourselves and understand all of the things those guys said were not understandable. You can't understand God, that's impossible. And you can't directly experience and therefore know God, that's evil, heretic, heresy, burn her, burn the witch. Lies, because beliefs are not based on truth, they're based on lies. There is a special class of belief called right opinion that follows the logos. That's an exception. Generally speaking, beliefs are, well, they're nothing to do with truth, and usually they are in direct opposition to truth. So those people who want to keep us in that savage ignorance so they can manipulate us, so they can take all of the money and get a little bit of a kick, sadistic pleasure from inflicting suffering on everyone else, because it makes them feel strong like their mummy or daddy, like their mummy or daddy before them, like theirs before them, all the way back to the caveman times. They said you can't understand self and reality. They said you can't understand ethics and morality. They said you can't understand the health of or the soul and therefore know the health and excellence of the soul, which would be the model for ethics and morality, and the paradigm for any politician or any spiritual leader. You can't understand that, and you definitely can't demand understanding and knowledge from any authority figure. Just blindly obey them like a caveman savage, and then put on your Nazi armband and go be the worst kind of animal that's possible in this universe. Other animals don't treat each other this way. We're the worst in that belief-based system of thinking. So our evolution is an evolution of how we grasp the world. How do we make sense of the world? That's called cognitive functioning. Our evolution is an evolution of cognitive functioning. Through the learning of understanding to free ourselves from the ignorant false beliefs through philosophical midwifery, and then a further development of that understanding now that we are healthy to reach our excellence, to really nail down that paradigm of truth, to be used in all political and spiritual affairs. But all, not just political and spiritual, that's just for the best of us. Everyone has a soul, everyone has good and bad feelings, everyone wants to be happy, everyone wants to reach their goals in life, therefore the development of understanding is for everyone. It's the universal quest of man, or the meaning of life.
You're a wizard, Harry.
The hero's journey that Harry Potter went on, that's for all of us. This is the paradigm that all other movies derive from, whether they know it or not. And of course, we know that the guy who wrote the book on the hero's journey did meet with Pierre Grimes, and he was told, hey, you better learn the logos because that's what it really is. We've cobbled together many aspects, but you're talking about the development of understanding, following the logos. And he, of course, didn't take that challenge. Not a lot of people do. And that's the issue. That's why we're in this book, because not a lot of people do. As we've just rationally walked through all of the steps that can be clear to anyone who wants to look. Therefore, if we can understand the root cause of all of our most terrible beliefs, whether it's the schoolyard bully picking on someone different from him, in particular the smart kids, because ultimately anyone who wants to keep you in belief has to convince you to fear or even hate your own mind. Don't think for yourself, don't understand, that's a higher part of your own mind, and don't have wisdom or experience the pure light of divine being, which is your mind. Fear all that. And definitely, if there is a brilliant light experience that Jesus and Socrates had, definitely don't recognize that it is completely understandable. And it's the understandability of that experience that gives rise to understanding, allows us to be rational beings. So the root cause or the source of understanding is the rationality of divine light. Fear it instead. So it's our source of excellence, it's our source of happiness, it's the ultimate goal or the meaning of life for everyone. But fear it, hate it, and pick on anybody who seems to be shining their light. Be a MAGA, be a racist, be a sexist, be a bully, be a thug, be a Nazi, be a Zionist. And whenever the fascists go into power, who do they target first? The thinkers, the intelligent people, the good people. They're the first ones shipped to the concentration camps. The fear of the mind is so strong, they said there are stories of people saying, that guy, you can tell why he's here. You can tell by the way people walk, that they're different. Miserable people, fearing the mind since childhood, the racist, we call them towheads. The ones who are likely to be Nazi-type people in Nazi-type jobs. Sad, angry, more likely to beat their partner. 40% of, 40% of people in the police force have domestic violence charges against them. It's a troubling statistic. Not to shame them, but to understand ourselves. So, the cause of human problems is an allegiance to belief-based cognition characterized by a fear of mind and a fear of understanding. What we need to do to remove that problem is love understanding. Get over our fear of understanding, our fear of our mind, and love our own mind. Love understanding, love solving problems, love the awesome conversations that you have with your friends based on understanding. Love humor. Ever seen a conservative comedian? Probably not. If you have, they suck. You can't have fun with fear and hatred against your own mind because comedy is of the mind. It's insight. It's using steps of understanding to reach insight. That's why there are no conservative comedians. It doesn't exist. So if you go to a comedian, right-wing comedian, if you've seen one of those shows, Gutfeld or something, they don't laugh, they clap. Yes, we agree with that racism. And by the way, it's super, super cringe. So, given all of those true statements, we can conclude the reason we're here as human beings is to address the particular kind of false beliefs that we bring with us, or the kind of false beliefs that manifest as our pathologos beliefs. Address that by addressing our unique pathologos beliefs through a participation in philosophical midwifery, the skill of removing our beliefs, ultimately developing into a mastery of the art of midwifery ourselves, each one of us, every single person, and then using that movement from sickness to health, or removing the chains of our savage ignorance, using that freedom in a free, open, fair world to continue to develop understanding to take it to its peak, the ultimate excellence of man. Continuing to cultivate the art of understanding is philosophy. Not a study of beliefs like the way it's taught in school in the Aristotelian tradition, modern tradition, collect beliefs about the physical world. No, it's not beliefs, it's the opposite, it's understanding. And it isn't about the physical world, it's about the cause and principles of the physical world. It's about being. Or pure mind. So can you see how a fear or a hatred or both of the mind prevents exactly what we're here for? Thus, the single most important activity every human being can do is to do philosophical midwifery. A close second is, once free of your problems, to continue to develop understanding into philosophy. And the more we can share or participate in the divine light of pure mind, or nous in the Greek, the more rational and intelligible and caring we become, because caring and benefit exists there too. Providence and logos, or providence and understanding, go hand in hand. Ever notice that the most loyal to false beliefs, Nazis and fascists, they are the most cruel? In fact, when we look at the right wing or the billionaires or the most cruel, cruelty seems to be the point. They don't have to murder all the brown people, they kind of want to. Billionaire could end starvation, but they don't want to. They like it. The feeling of power over another person is being mistaken for the power with people. Power over through oppression, through belief-based thinking, versus power with. True care, true providence based on understanding. And the more that we can reach the highest aspects of our own mind, where understanding comes from, the more rational we can be, and the more providential we can be to ourselves, the more excellent we can be as a rational soul, and the more we can share in providence and benefit and be a good human being in the world. That's what it means to be a good person. So that's what man is, between our savage roots of belief-based thinking and the potential divine excellence of reaching our highest peak of excellence through the love of understanding, Philodianoia. We're a mean between those extremes. So what? That's the issue. So what? The fact that that is true objectively for everyone, no matter where you are on the planet, no matter what color skin you are, no matter what gender you are, no matter what planet you're on, no matter what time period you're on, no matter what species you're in, the fact that that's true for any sentient being at this level of development, or having developed into language and self-reflection, the Logos and Ousia, the fact that this is an objective truth that can solve problems, bring us to a healthy, ordered, balanced world, and then from there move into our excellence, the fact that that's true isn't enough. Why? That's the question of this book. Why isn't it enough? Why do people reject that? Why would they rather embrace their ignorance than become healthier and better? Why would they rather be a negative influence on the world, towing the line for daddy or mummy or the Jews or the Christians or the Muslims or whoever the fuck, than actually become a rational, good, caring human being? Why would they rather be in a group different from others than unite all of humanity, see the sameness in all living beings, because we are all aspects of mind, reflecting mind, turning about to know mind, and then ultimately to know the self. We are all the same in that way. We are all self, we all have mind, and we are all going through that journey. Which means we don't need slaves or prison camps or genocided children. We don't need divisions. We don't need a billionaire class and a poor class. We don't need to say, oh, they're evil, I'm afraid of them. Oh no, they're evil, I'm afraid of them. Oh no, but we say that you're evil. Okay, let's have a war. And maybe let's even blow up the world in the process. Why not unity? It's the truth. We've said it. You can find it on YouTube and Twitch. You can read it in this book. You can go on to read the Parmenides and discover the 9 or now 10 completely rational ways of understanding all 10 levels of human development to be the best kind of guide, the best kind of beneficial person, the best kind of teacher or guru, to guide everyone through all 10 stages. And let's have fun doing it, eh? Not picking a team. Or sixth hypothesis team rules. We hate the fifth hypothesis, jabronis. No. You're going to be fifth hypothesis some of the day, and some of the day you're going to be sixth. But you're supposed to move through all of them. You don't pick a team, like a belief, like a caveman. So what's the problem then? The problem is when a new rational truth is introduced to human beings who have been trained from childhood, from caveman days, to fear understanding and their own mind, and even to hate people different from their own beliefs. When the new truth is introduced, there is a variety of human responses to it. We aren't all great people who just take on the new truth, love it awesomely, embrace this new way of being, get rid of the old bullshit that didn't help anyone, and create a wonderful set of wonderful ordered soul, fulfilling your purpose here on life, escaping the chains of suffering and problems, escaping the prison of reincarnation so you can continue your spiritual journey and also create a utopia on earth. No, we're not all like that. Thankfully, there are one or two out there, like the author of this book. Thank God for that. Literally. But because we are a mean between those extremes, and belief-based thinking is characterized or has an underpinning cause of a fear of mind, there'll be a variety of interpretations, a variety of ways of responding to, somewhat accepting, somewhat rejecting, or even completely rejecting the new truth. Even if it's true, even if it helps everyone. So, what's the principle we've discovered in this book that makes this book so freaking awesome? They call the Parmenides the greatest book never read, because it outlines all of the stages of human development, which are also all of the different kinds of cultures, meaning we didn't need the Crusades. When somebody decided, let's do a way of thinking based on this kind of belief, if we all read the Parmenides, that's the fourth hypothesis, with a little bit of seventh, mixed in with a little bit of eighth and a little bit of fifth. We don't have to go down that road of subjugating women, seeking Armageddon, blowing up the world because Paul told us that Jesus will come back. We don't have to play that up because we understand it. Imagine someone coming into a doctor's office. Should I drink this bleach? The doctor says, no, you don't have to. We already understand what happens if you drink bleach. You don't have to go down the road of seeing what happens if you drink bleach. That's health of the body. It's only one step to the health of the soul. So why is it the greatest book never read? That's the issue. Having a paradigm for human development that could be used for an objective standard of ethics, morality, politics, and spirituality isn't enough. Because just as there is a hierarchical ordering of all of the different types of development, so too is there a hierarchical ordering of all of the different ways human beings respond to that rational model. For instance, we have an example of the Kabbalah. The Kabbalah in the book already, which is simply, here we go, it's highlighting it in my book. Put it in green. The Kabbalah looked at that rational model and used pieces of it and cobbled it in to the Sephardic religious tradition. They didn't just drop their religious belief-based thinking. They used this rational model as a patch to patch up some part of the cloak while keeping the main cloak. So that's one way of responding. Another way of, hey, welcome, welcome, welcome. Oh, look at all of the lovely dancing emojis. Very, very cute. Where's my stuffy? On my chair. Can my headphones reach? The answer was no. How are you, Sus? It's a Saturday night for me, so I had a pretty nice night playing music. Lots and lots of smiles tonight. It was a good crowd. Played a lot of grunge. A lot of appreciative people. So, what we need to do is not just understand that you're okay, I can't complain, gonna dye my hair purple light. Ooh, yes. Present future Trunks. Goodbye, brunette life. Oh. Dramatic sting for the goodbye to the brunette life. So, Kabbalah is one example of one of the different ways that we respond to truth. So what? So that's why I love this book so much. My whole life has been a confusion of why doesn't everyone love understanding and truth? Socrates said it. Everyone says that he's the smartest guy ever. The father of Western thought, they say. Everything since Socrates is but a footnote to Socrates. Then why don't we listen to him when he just tells us the meaning of life? He doesn't just tell us, he helps, he writes stories so we can puzzle through it and figure it out in two. But once we've nailed it down. Oh, and by the way, philosophical midwifery and dream analysis, which Socrates did, Homer did, Diotima and Parmenides did, and has been rediscovered, the only empirically verified form of psychotherapy ever to exist. What the current modern models, cognitive behavioral therapy, created by Albert Ellis himself said, oh no, I'm wrong, that's right. That's where my work is going, but I can't say it. Because people like thinking, number one, it's behavioral and not cognitive, and number two, the official name is cognitive emotive. People like the excuse that, hey, some human problems you can't solve because humans are emotional. So he said, oh, that's why it's wrong, and midwifery is right, and we know it's right. So why don't humans embrace it? That's been my life. Hey everyone, there's this great new game in town. Understanding removing human problems, creating a healthy and just world, going from health to excellence. Reaching the fullest extremes of your own mind, knowing the nature of reality, knowing why you're here, where you're going to go. Fulfill your purpose and destiny. Escape the chains of suffering and problems, and escape the prison of reincarnation. Oh, and everyone can play. No one gets excluded. Oh, and we can therefore live in harmony with the planet and all life. My whole life has been saying that and getting a big fat fuck you from everyone. Very confusing stuff. Variety of fuck yous, by the way. Some more severe than others. The more thuggish or toe-headed or brutish or bullying, the stronger the fuck you. Therefore, this book that says, oh yeah, that's completely understandable, and even you could even anticipate all of the different reactions to truth that humans go through. So maybe you can have a happier life than the one you've been living so far, and a safer life than the one you've been living so far. Many, many close calls. But not only that, if we can all understand the paradigm, the structure, the objective, true, not belief, not opinion, not anything goes, the objective, universal, provable, hierarchical ordering of all of the ways human beings respond to truth, maybe we can even recognize that as its own model or map for personal development. In other words, the way an individual relates to truth could improve as they improve. So not only do we present the 10 hypotheses of Parmenides, this is what we have to do. And not only do we also present philosophical midwifery, that's how you solve problems, remove suffering. We present a third model. And by the way, hearing it, here are the stages you're going to go through. You're going to reject it at first. You're going to become curious for a while, and maybe you'll see the value in it and pretend to be speaking for a new rational way of being, but you'll be a wolf in sheep's clothing. And maybe as you go through a process of development, hopefully guided by people who have already gone through it themselves, the doctors and mechanics, but of the soul, not people who are, I guess different and special in that they've gone through it. So that requires work and sacrifice and courage, especially the first ones through the wall. Hopefully when this becomes a regular way of being, it'll just be easy and fun. And, but at the moment, there are a few people having to go through that brick wall first, punch their head through the cinder blocks. Those people hopefully can be recognized for how important and special and unique they are, not cutting them down because they're different, tall poppy syndrome, pulling them down like crabs in a crate, embracing them, celebrating them, building fucking statues in their honor. Because those special people are the ones we need to guide the rest of us through that hierarchical system of development marked by how we respond to the new way of being. How do we respond to truth, love, and understanding? A new and necessary component to understanding how to be learned, how to help, how to be a good person, and how we learn. Not just the truth, midwifery, philosophy, dream analysis, and mythology, but also this new model, how do we respond to truth? We can't ignore that. Believe me. Well, you don't just believe me, but rationally understand. But from my personal experience, you can't ignore that. It's fucking terrible not to have that model. As someone who has spent his life trying to understand everything and help, that's pretty much been my life, and it's been difficult to say the least. Having that model hopefully will make things a little bit better, a little bit more rational, and maybe even be another aid to guiding humanity and individuals through that level, that process of development. How do you respond to truth? Which one of these? See how awesome this book is? Can you see? Can you see how good it is? This is why I've read it I've taken a break from the other books for a little bit to do 4 or 5 streams in a row of this one. It's so good. Just that promise alone. Just, phew. Of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah, human beings hate truth. That's the problem. That's why allegiance to beliefs are more powerful than enlightenment experiences that many people have had, especially with the reintroduction of LSD. No, you go back to your problems. We respond to truth in a variety of ways. We are building a model. So far, we have 4 on the table. Completely accepting the new and rejecting the old and false beliefs. That's the best. Right at the bottom, the other extreme, completely rejecting the new, the rational, the good. To be fiercely loyal to our false beliefs from childhood all the way back to the cave. We have a third one, wolf in sheep's clothing, pretending to speak like Paul, pretending to speak for the new, like Paul, pretending to speak for Jesus, but completely ignoring everything Jesus said and introducing all of this other shit he didn't say. That's Paul, that's modern Christianity. And last time we went through the 15 or so fundamental principles of modern Christianity, none of which was Jesus. Most of which, well, all of which Jesus said wasn't the case. All of it was this guy Paul who loved to murder people and then decided, I'm better than Jesus. I'm going to start churches based on these teachings that the world's going to end in my lifetime and Jesus is going to come back and all that other stuff, shit. Now, of course, it didn't end in his time, so that should have been enough for modern Christians to go, hang on a second, what the hell are we doing listening to Paul? He said, oh, God told me that the world's going to end and all the non-believers are going to be gotten rid of and all the believers are going to go to heaven and the demons are going to lose their power. And within the next 50 years has passed, still there are a lot of Christians who believe in Paul, think that they're Christian. So that's one approach to something new, pretending to speak for it, but completely substituting the old, Paul. So we've got completely rejecting thuggery, Nazis. We've got Paul pretending to speak for the new. We've got the Kabbalah using the new to just be a patchwork up the old, the Sephardic tradition. And then we've got the other extremes, completely accepting a new way of being. So let's fill in the rest. We also mentioned love. That's where we are in the book. The new way of being is also characterized by love. Not a love for bullying people, not a love for rounding up brown people and feeling like a big man because you're an ICE agent, or a Nazi, or a thug, or a Zionist, killing Palestinians, not love of murdering Palestinian children, not a love of starving to death all of the human beings like the billionaires. No, a different kind of love. A love fundamentally characterized by this new way of being, understanding, but also a love that can benefit. Because only understanding benefits, belief harms. And as a principle. That's where we are. So we've asked Jesus, of the 2 main spokespeople for him, Paul and Mark, so far, because the other Gospels, Matthew and Luke, copied Mark. Paul completely rejected everything Jesus said and made up his own bullshit, modern Christianity. And John saw that conflict and tried to save Paul by cobbling it together. So really we have 2 spokespeople for Jesus at the moment in the book, Mark and Paul. So our question is, what is the Jesus-based ideas of love? Let's review that and nail it down. And then Jesus said, okay, now I've given you mine, Socrates. What do you think? You of the other tradition. You of the good way, where we are all necessarily moving into as a stage of evolution, understanding-based cognition, a way of making sense of the world through understanding. What do you think love is? What we would call real love, not sick love. So, let's do a quick review of those basic lies about Christianity from Paul, nail them down, and then nail down the 2 ideas of love based on Jesus, Paul's and Mark's. Paul's not on Jesus, but anyway. And then let's keep reading. See how important this is. See how great this is. How lucky are we that we have this text? Oh my God. Let's jump in. Here's the man. Tuk Tuk has been replaced by Cap. Looking smart. I have my coffee. Philosophy juice. Just thinking, by the way, I've been doing this long enough to recognize I do a lot of repetition. A lot of the things I said in the introduction I've said before. I just want to make clear why I do that. This way of thinking isn't common yet. So as we learn it, I want to say it enough that the amount that we say the good and the true can counteract in some way how common the false and the lies are. Never judge politicians, never judge religious people, never judge morality and ethics, never talk about religion and politics at the table. Never demand a objective, rational system for all cultures, all people everywhere. Just, vote based on your beliefs. So that's all garbage, of course. That's where we're evolving out of. That's the negative extreme. So I say it to sort of remind myself of what's true, but also to remember it myself. I'm trying to remember it and ingrain it and bake it into my soul. There's a saying that Socrates says in one of the dialogues. If it's worth saying many, many times. Pierre used to say, you want to master a text, read it 100 times. It's an old Chinese saying. Plus, it's a stream, so there might be new people in, and they might be hearing it for the first time. And of course, it's worth reminding everyone, hey, we can completely understand the meaning of life. It's not weird. It's not a matter of opinion. It's just simply moving from belief-based cognition into understanding, which solves problems and reaches our excellence. The difficulty is, even though we have that model of objective truth, and we can demonstrate rationally that that is the meaning of life for all of us, human beings have a problem responding to that truth. There'll be various different interpretations or human responses to that true thing, causing us to go through difficulty in that growing, that evolving. So, what were the 15 bullshit, horse crap, nonsense, garbage that the murderous, the guy who seemed to enjoy murdering Jesus' friends, guy Paul, what did he say? Trying to make Christianity all about him, putting him either equal to or above Jesus even. That Paul really loved his own bullshit, didn't he? What did he say? He said, Paul stoned to death Jesus' earliest followers, chose not to include any of Jesus' work in his letters. Socrates says, yeah, I know the sort. I had my Aristotle. Kind of did a similar thing. Both believed they alone understood our teachings, without touching what was actually there to be seen. But actually, I had Plato, who did see a lot, so not so bad. Not completely as bad, but unfortunately our modern schools are in Aristotle's tradition. And to really understand what they were saying, we have to ourselves create the condition for our own divine enlightening vision. But unfold the logos, the intelligibility of that. Okay, here's what Paul's claimed. All lies. All lies. All lies. Let's read it. Jesus was the only Son of God. Lie 1. He was a pre-existing divine being. Lie 2. He died on the cross, and in doing so, atoned. Let's make this one idea. Made atonement for the sins of mankind. Lie 3. His resurrection marks the beginning of a cosmic catastrophe. Lie 4. Ending in the saved believers ascending to heaven. Lie 5. The rest of all life will be destroyed. Oh, I think that's part of the same lie. Let's put that together. And the rest of life will be destroyed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lies so far. Death will be abolished. Get rid of the capitalist spam. Make money lying to people, says the spam bots that I have every single stream. Death will be abolished, and the demonic forces will lose their power. Lie 6 and 7. Lie 8. My resurrection is said to place me at the right hand of God, making me Lord and King. Lie 9. I will return on the clouds of heaven to redeem the saved and bring final judgment of man. That seems like the same idea, right? So let's make that a single idea here. Make that pink. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Six, 7, 8, 9 lies so far. From this time on, there will be no more sin, suffering, or death. Lie 9. Paul believed he would be present to experience that end, so he even predicted when it would happen. Lie 10. And the fact that he was wrong, well, why not go through the rest of the stuff? 1, 2, 3. Make this one idea. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Lie 13. Oh, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, 13. Those who join his church, number 13, and follow the rituals of baptism and partake in Eucharist. We can make that one idea. One big lie. Let's remove that and remove that. Lie 13. Those who join Paul's church and follow the rituals of baptism and partake of the Eucharist will gain salvation after resurrection. Lie 14. The saved become sons of God and gain eternal life with me in heaven. So, about 14 fundamental lies that we recognize today as the hallmarks or the cornerstones or what makes Christianity Christianity, pretty much. Or Paul. We don't have Christians, we have Paulines. He carefully crafted this message and is repeated endlessly, lulls to sleep the souls of his followers, and they forget what was said by others and by me. Yeah, no shit, I went to church, and I repeated all that shit. We believe in one God, the Father Almighty, the maker of heaven, and blah, 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 blah. We repeat that, lulling us to sleep mindlessly. It's brainwashing. That's brainwashing. So none of those sayings came from your own teachings? And he said he was commissioned by God? God told him to do this? What a crazy man. Oh, and he puts him at least equal or even above you, Jesus? Paul thinks he's better than Jesus and he can just lie about everything you said and add all this shit and God said so? And to ignore the other gospels, just listen to him only? Wow, what a thug and what a tyrant. Yes, he called himself my apostle at God's call, yet his teachings don't reflect anything of my earthly ministry, says Jesus, and he freely added what I never said. He built a system of churches, departed from your teachings, and how come the followers don't realize this? And Jesus skipped that question. There's no resurrection. That was a lie as well. Added to Mark many centuries later. Matthew and Luke copied Mark, and John tried to save Paul's doctrine by combining both Mark and Paul. So that's the history of the Gospels, because they're all different dudes with different problems and different levels of insight. Of course, they're not all saying the same thing. Okay. By the way, a lot of Luke and the others added a lot of shit to say, oh, no, there was a major conversion experience that Paul had on the road to Damascus. And by the way, Paul didn't actually go into that much detail. So even that was a bunch of lies. All right. And there's a principle behind this. When beliefs go beyond what believers can believe, they add to our doctrines their own beliefs. And Mark's seems to be the closest to wisdom. He talks about Jesus meeting the scribe. The scribe asked him a gotcha question. What's the first commandment? Jesus combined the first and second. There's one God, no other than He. And you should love God with all of your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love. What the heck does that mean? How can you love something with your heart, soul, mind, and strength? The scribe was better than Jesus by saying, oh, you forgot understanding, pal. And then the second commandment, loving one's neighbor as yourself, the scribe said, hey, that one's better than all the sacrifices and all the silly dances and sacrifices and burnt offerings we make. Love one's neighbor as oneself. What's the oneself? And what's love? And how can we see the oneself as actually the same self as us? And what's all this got to do with understanding, if understanding is more important? So, a lot of puzzles in Paul's account of love. One of the two accounts of Jesus' love is Mark. I apologize. We've got Paul and Mark on the table. The other guys just played catch up. You know where they play like what's it called in baseball when you have those guys playing after the main hitters try, and maybe the main hitters get people on bases, you have someone coming in to playing cleanup. Matthew, Luke, and John played cleanup. So that's Mark's idea of love from the scribe, which Jesus thought was better than what he was saying. Good on him. So Jesus acknowledged the scribe's superior answer. Mind is playing a major role. Heart, soul, mind, strength, and understanding. How can you love something with your heart, soul, mind, strength, and understanding? And how can you see the divine in everything? And how can you see the oneself in everyone? Doesn't sound bad, but kind of open-ended, right? Jesus says that the scribe noted that I left out the role of understanding in the love of God, and that was important. So really nailing home the significance of love and understanding together. Socrates says the idea of understanding is seeing a kinship between logos and nous. And that was the introduction for today, right? Talking about where does understanding come from? It's not believing our parents and their parents and their parents all the way back to cavemen and thinking anyone different than these bullshit fucking beliefs, we should kill them and genocide them and deport them and bully them on the playground. No, that's not where what understanding is. That's the opposite of understanding. That's belief. That's why we have problems. Understanding is seeing a kinship between the logos, the rational, knowable understandability of reality itself, and the underlying rationality of all paradigms, all systems, geometry, music, the Parmenides, dream analysis, midwifery philosophy, the paradigm we must insist on for all political, spiritual leaders, all morality and ethics, the Logos, seeing its kinship with that, the way, the knowingness of the divine light of pure being, Nous. Seeing how the Logos and Nous are related. That's understanding. Pretty neat. Because Nous has an eternal existence. It's always open. So, we're reading the Symposium, and one of the things is the front door to the House of Agathon is wide open. Nous is always there. You don't have to subscribe to a monthly payment. You don't have to be a gold class member. You can't have a corporation patent the access to divine intellect. It's always present for anyone open to see it. That's where understanding derives. That's what makes us intelligent. Jesus also finds it interesting that Mark often cites the need to understand rather than believe. So it sounds like we have a bit of an ally with Mark. Obviously, Paul is the worst kind of person you can be, but it sounds like Jesus here is saying, hey, Mark recognizes. Not understand and belief, understand rather than believe. You want to believe some jerk, or do you want to see it for yourself? Do you want to copy a caveman way of being that's the cause of all human problems? Or do you want to participate in intelligence itself? Not believing anyone, but engaging in reality. See? It makes sense when you say it. So, if that's Mark's idea of love, fundamentally tied to understanding, what did Paul say? Paul says that God showed his love by human sacrifice. Yeah, murdering strangers. Murdering other people, that's how you love. Yeah. This hurts me more than it hurts you, says the slave owner beating the slave. It's actually God's love, says Netanyahu, starving to death Palestinian children. This is the divine love of God, says the Christians, genociding other people in the Crusades, torturing them to death. Trump loves us, says MAGA, as Trump takes away all social services, cuts funding to child cancer research, takes away school lunches for children, kills women in childbirth, taking away their rights to healthcare, childbirth healthcare, siphoning more of the money to the billionaires in a completely unsustainable, stupid move. That's love. Oh, actually, what did Paul say? It's not love. No understanding in any of that, right? No understanding in any of those things. Paul agreed with the bad side. Killing his child is love. God showed his love by giving his only son to humanity so that they may be saved. He offered that I died for man's sins. Paul adds in several places that the second commandment to love thy neighbor is an act of charity. So a lot of the sociopathic billionaires go on Joe Rogan and say, what did Elon Musk say recently? Empathy is a bug in the programming of humanity. It's a flaw. Peter Thiel, a guy, who seems to hate all humans and is designing systems for our mass oppression and mass systemic violence on humankind. Didn't he say something the same thing? Empathy is a negative thing. It's a sickness. What do billionaires say? Oh no, we shouldn't care for all people as part of the rules and laws of government. No, just charity. Just let a billionaire throw some scraps to the peasants. Paul thought the same thing. Oh, and Mark said, I never said that I was God's only son. That was added by these other doofuses. Oh. Well, changes the game, isn't it? If they're just making shit up about some magical being that's different from all of us, that needed to be murdered as an act of charity and love, then we can see how fucking sick it is. And actually, the game is the game it's always been. Evolving human species, moving from belief-based cognition to a love of understanding. That's it. And Mark seems to see it as well. Socrates says, hang on a second, how does murdering others help people learn shit? If I have a problem, don't I have to see what was the cause, the origin of the problem, of the misdeed? Is it just wise to lift your anxiety and say, oh, all the bad things now, oh, I don't have to think about it anymore. I can go and sin again tomorrow. Why not understand the original cause of our problem so we can learn from it and grow? Like a rational person. Says Socrates. So this idea of learning and growing is actually in Mark with this story with this Greek woman where she wanted help and Jesus said, no, if I helped you, it'd be like helping dogs. And she said, well, hang on a second. Dogs can still benefit from table scraps. All right, you're right. You've taught me something, says Jesus. So he wasn't all-knowing divine being. He's learning shit too, like all of us. Funny that. Okay, so now we have the two ideas. We have those 15 lies of Paul that we call modern Christianity. We have Mark giving a more accurate account. No magical rising from the dead story that was added centuries later by weirdos. And of course, the other people are either stealing from Mark or John cobbling together Paul with Mark to save Paul. So, Paul and Mark. Those are the two fundamental perspectives so far of the teachings of Jesus. We have mentioned the Gnostic, the Nag Hammadi, I think it's called, Nag Hammadi scriptures. So the ones that we thought all the other ones were burned by the church. Oh, we like those ones. Let's burn all the other accounts of Jesus' teachings. But there was a whole, a bunch that were found, I think, in the 60s. The Nag Hammadi's texts or the Gnostic. So we haven't got that yet. So far, we've only got Paul and Mark, two very opposing ideas of what love is. Mark's obviously better, balloons, but not quite fleshed out. Socrates says, hey, you know what? In my tradition, in philosophy, the love of wisdom, the role of love has a wider and essential and vital force in the way of the philosopher. Now we know philosophy means love of wisdom. And the new way of being for humanity, which we are trying to share, but we have to recognize the different human reactions to this new way of being. Philodeinoia, love of understanding. That side. So Jesus said, hey, it's your turn to share your wider vision of love, Soc. I have set out some points from my followers. Would you do the same? And Soc said, sure thing. But first, the most important thing is to have a cookie. And I don't see it there, but I think the whole cookie thing was in a footnote. You don't have to listen to me eat. All right. So let's bring our characters back in. Here they are. That's the chorus, anti-chorus. There's Jeebus and there's Socrates. Socrates. Yes. Oh. Yes, but first, I should say that we need to be careful when describing love, to distinguish the roles and meaning of love as it functions with the lover and with the beloved in the act of loving. Behind these distinctions is the creativity of love in bringing to birth what is the consequence of that loving. In our philosophy, there is an intimate connection between the logos and love, or the role of reason and love. It is for this reason that these two ideas are linked to the idea of midwifery in our philosophy. I like it. This is something I've been puzzling over for a very long time. In one of the dialogues, Socrates warns, hey, if you meet someone really, really beautiful, don't make big, long speeches about how beautiful they are. Because then all these other dummies who don't see the level of beauty you see in this beautiful woman, they'll think, oh, wow, I guess she's pretty neat. I'm going to seduce her. Now you've got all these competitors for her love. Instead, make speeches about the consequence of your loving relationship. In other words, if you end up with this girl, what sort of creations can you give birth to? As Socrates puts it, hey, part of my role as a midwife is not just helping give birth to ideas, specifically the false ideas, the sick ideas that can't stand the light of day, Pathologos believes. Also giving birth to good ideas that we are here for. One of my roles is to, and I don't say this often because it's kind of frowned upon, because the everyday word for it is a pimp. I can match people up who should be together based on an understanding, maybe some sort of future seeing as well, of the sort of works that they can give birth to if they end up together. The sort of children they give birth to, not real children, creations. Because if the right people come together, they can give birth to creations and works that will last 1,000 years in humanity and rival even the works of Homer and Hesiod. What a quote. Isn't that a fantastic thing? Imagine the right people coming together to give birth to objects of wonder and art and reflection that humanity can reflect on for 1,000 years, which means it will have to include a new way of being for humans to last 1,000 years. That will rival even the Odyssey and the Iliad, even the works of Homer and Hesiod. By the way, the Iliad, midwifery and dream analysis all through that. And divine luminosity experience for Achilles, just like Jesus and Socrates had. Imagine a work of art like that. So, I have been wondering about this for a long time. Kind of makes sense. Don't go around describing to everyone how beautiful a person is, because there might be a dummy and not see the level of depth of beauty that you're seeing, and now you've got all these dummies who might be more charming or rich or something and might be competitive suitors for the person that you love and maybe should be with. Instead, says Socrates, I think it's in the Phaedrus, I'm not quite sure, it's been a while, talk about, the consequences of the loving. So, I'm glad to be reading it here. Did I mention that this book kicks ass? I'm very excited, let's keep reading. Oh, and Socrates is making further distinctions that obviously Paul's idea of love is garbage, marks better, but lacks a lot of distinctions, lacks a lot of understanding, even though its understanding is involved in it. It's better. But here we're seeing more distinctions with Socrates. There is a role and meaning of love. Let's get the G in there too. No. Wait. The role and meaning of love. As it functions with the lover and the beloved. So there seems to be two roles. That's interesting. In the act of loving. So we have the lover, and the act. Behind these distinctions is the creativity of love bringing to birth the consequence of that loving. Let's bring back our characters. First, I should say that we need to be careful when describing love to distinguish the roles and meaning of love as it functions with the lover and with the beloved, and in the act of loving. 1, 2, 3. Behind these distinctions is the creativity of love in bringing to birth what is the consequence of that loving. In our philosophy, there is an intimate connection between logos and love, or the role of reason in love. How interesting. Logos and love, or reason and love. So one of the puzzles is, what exactly is the logos? And we've given a bunch of different descriptions of coming from nous, maybe the shadow of nous, or we need to see from understanding. Understanding is seeing the kinship between love and our divine intellect, or our just the mind. We also talked about it being the paradigm, the rational, understandable system behind all rational systems in reality, particularly the Parmenides and midwifery and dream analysis, but also music and even the ways of interpreting we're doing on this text. But we're still wondering about it. That's a question I've been carrying for a very long time, and I still carry that question. What exactly is the logos? Reason is another thing we can add. It's also reason. Reason and love are intimately connected for the philosopher. For it is for this reason that these two ideas are linked to the idea of midwifery. What? Why? What reason? Because reason and love are connected, they're linked to the idea of midwifery in philosophy. Yeah, I hope he says more about that. If we begin with the mystery of love, we need to see that Plato starts his exploration into the nature and origin of love in the cosmos. Then he explores the power of love through a model of love's domain as the mean between the immortal and the mortal. Fascinating. He's already described the condition of humanity being the mean between nature and intellect, or the mortal and immortal, very similar. Or between, well, here we go, wisdom and ignorance. So we can really flesh out this analogy. So we pull out our Sherlock Holmes cap and we put some things together. We've got belief-based thinking and our purpose or evolution. Evolution or the meaning of life. What meaning of life there too. It's always funny to write the meaning of life on the board, considering we know even if the meaning of life is written on the board, nobody in Pierre's class will pay attention. So I find that funny that we can write the meaning of life and it won't make a difference for most people, because we have to go through this structure of development on how we respond to the meaning of life. We are probably going to reject it to begin with. That's different from what I think. So, but it's funny to write it on the board for me. I find it funny. I think maybe Pierre found it funny too, because he was the one who did it in this class when I was there. You can imagine how excited I was sitting in that class, right? Many, many years studying his work on my own in Australia. To be in the classroom in California with the guy teaching, but also just seeing the dynamics of regular people. Amazing. I wish I could have stayed there the whole time. Belief-based thinking. If I could have my life again, that would be a turning point. Although, I mean, if I could go back, no, I'd go to me as a 18-year-old. Hey, don't worry about college. Just go to California. Why? There's a guy there. Trust me. You'll have a great time. 2, understanding. So that's what we have recognized as the meaning of life, and that's why we call this the new way of being. We could put this in here. Philodeionoia. The new way of being. Or the new way of being for... This is important. So if you recognize the appeal of MAGA, like the worst, completely the worst kind of belief-based thinking. They're the ones setting up the concentration camps. They're the ones putting on the ice masks that they hide behind like cowards as they round up brown people. Fucking terrible. MAGA offers a way of being. They can finally express themselves. Normally racism is frowned upon. They have to retreat to some 4chan corner of the internet to communicate. Which is a failure of the left. They didn't offer a way of being where all human beings can express themselves. So Trump comes along and says, hey, I've got a way of being. You can be a complete jackass and moron like all of you guys and just be as racist as you fucking want. Be as terrible as you want, lie, don't pay any of your workers, sexually abuse anyone you want, and just say anything you want. Who cares? I'm gonna lie 1,000,000 times every year and I'll show you it doesn't matter. And so one of the criticisms against the Democrats was, hey, you were just doing this fascism light. You did not offer a new way of being. You weren't offering a solution to any problems. You weren't offering a new way of being in which we could develop understanding. So, but now in the text we have some more terms. The immortal and the... already in the text we have that line from earlier. Let's see it to remind ourselves. We have a search function in my new thing here. Nature. We are between nature. The nature of the light. The nature. Here we go. All mankind is caught between the extremes of being part of nature and the intelligible. So we can add this to our model. Isn't that neat? This is part of reading, looking for puzzles. Nature and the intelligible. And in the middle is man. And now we got two more. Hooray. The kids are getting drunk. Okay. Okay, let's put it in a fancy color. It's got orange. It looks fancy. Make this orange too. Love's domain is a mean between the immortal and the mortal. Let's add that to our thing. I don't know if it necessarily fits, but we could try. Between the mortal and the immortal. Oh, I just remembered something. A new stream that I'm going to look out for. I'm not sure when it's going to happen, so I just have to check it. My Discord every now and again. Mortal and the immortal. IMMO. Is that two M's? Yes. Immortal. Or wisdom and ignorance. Wisdom would be over here, I would say. Whoops. And ignorance. Makes sense. Belief-based thinking is the cause of ignorance. That's what causes our problems, prevents us from delving into understanding. And it seems that when we have understanding, our reaction is going to be somewhere along this continuum. The best of us will embrace understanding and jettison our false beliefs as best we can, jump right into midwifery to get rid of our belief-based thinkings, which is the cause of our ignorance that we developed because we have been evolving through nature. It was the blindly loyal, afraid of everything outside of the cave kinds of human beings that survived evolution without language, without reason. So it's our mortal or our natural existence, also the cause of ignorance. Let's make that a bit cleaner. That makes sense, right? But then we could have all of these other different ways of interpreting or responding to understanding. People most ignorant. Oh, you are those left-wing elites in your ivory towers. I learned from common sense I got from my daddy. Right? My daddy said that though you can't trust them and those brown people. You know, I don't care what you guys say with your smart thinking and your ivory towers. I don't care for that. I don't care for that at all. It's a new character that I'm working on, I've decided. So man is between, so we can also say, hey, also in between here, we have the role of love. Our purpose, our evolution, the meaning of life, to go from belief-based thinking or cognition to understanding-based. We call that philodainoia. And also we have man between nature and the intelligible, and love between the immortal and immortal, ignorance and wisdom. So maybe this might end up being one thing. That would be interesting, wouldn't it? What do you say, Owen?
Wow.
Come on.
Wow. 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 Wow.
That's weird. That's weird. That's how you think. 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 I'm too pure. 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 I'm too pure.
Nonsense. So, serious. The power of love is through a model of love's domain as a mean between the immortal and the mortal, or between wisdom and ignorance, and finally between gods and man. Well, let's put that on the list too. Wait, put that on the list. Between gods and man. Oh! I just remembered something. I'm not sure if it's been published yet, but Pierre has been working for a very long time on a book. I mean, I saw an old video where he said it's like 700 pages long. Return of the Gods. I don't know why that came up. Man and the Gods. So we'll put love in there 3 times. Love is between the mortal and the immortal, between ignorance and wisdom, or between man and the gods. Oh, interesting, because man is here twice. That's interesting. So, says Socrates. To open up the dynamics of love, he introduces his myth of poverty, plenty, love, and Aphrodite, thereby linking love as a medium between God and mankind. In doing this, he shows just how each of the levels of love matches the cognitive functions of ignorance, right opinion, understanding, and knowledge or wisdom. These ways of relating to knowing expresses the way the Logos unfolds as love becomes more comprehensive and extensive. Okay. We should write that on the board. So in this transition from ignorance to wisdom, or from man to the gods, or the mortal to the immortal, or from nature to the intelligible, we're adding more divisions, aren't we, to this one? We've got ignorance, right opinion, understanding, and knowledge or wisdom. And that, so this might be what we're going to discuss. Oh, isn't this great? So we've just started reading the symposium. So as we go through, maybe we'll get an account of different levels of love. Love of the body, love of the soul, love of the mind, maybe love of... Well, we'll see where we get it. We'll see what it is when we read it. But he seems to be saying that also, this yoga, or these progressing levels of love that human beings can develop, levels of love, match cognitive functions. It's interesting. So you can say, oh, well, we're like, our premise is the next stage of evolution, or what we're here to do evolutionarily, is evolve through cognition. Belief-based thinking, the source of fascism and bad things, and understanding, which is, we're not evolving wings and flying around. In fact, that would be dangerous because we have nuclear weapons without having made this. So that's why we can, that's why this is so important to talk about to everyone you meet. Safely, with the recognition of all the different ways of responding to it that humans go through. Because technologically, it's not a technological advancement. It's an advancement or evolution through cognition. Or cognitive functions. I like that expression. Just thinking, when did I start hearing Pierre use that way of talking about the divided line? Did I use it first? Maybe not, maybe, I don't know. Maybe not, I'm not sure. I remember, maybe it was just parallel thinking. I remember coming up with this way of... Maybe, I don't know. It's not important. Levels of love match the cognitive functions, and we have ignorance. We have rigid opinion. No, it's not belief. That's why we read Socrates and Pierre and stuff. It's why when you learn to become a mechanic, when you're an apprentice, you go to a master mechanic. Not just any old beliefs, but you have to start with the right opinions from somebody who's already a master. Be it Diotima, Parmenides, Pierre Grimes, or Socrates. Ignorance. Right. Opinion. Understanding. ING. Running out of room. And knowledge or wisdom with a capital N. That's Nous, by the way. Knowledge or wisdom. Knowledge, wisdom. Neat, look at that. Isn't that neat? This isn't belief-based. This isn't pathologos ignorance. It's something we call philosophical ignorance, or being stung, or aporia in the Meno. Realizing you don't know. Whereas pathologos, thugs, belief-based thinking, they claim to know everything. I know we're the chosen people. I know my family way of being is right. And they are immune from learning because they're blocked. That's what a block is. It blocks this development. So philosophical ignorance, knowing you don't know, but you're willing to find out, and then sticking your nose in the symposium and midwifery and dream analysis maybe this book too. Collect the right opinions, but then doing what we're doing right now, collecting those right opinions and organizing them for yourself in these little, and like this, and like this, and even better if you can use the dialectic like this, that's understanding. That's reading. We're learning how to read. If you like Christopher Nolan movies, you can find YouTube video essays where people do this, but for Christopher Nolan's movies. You can see, and maybe they show you their. Here is where Leonardo DiCaprio first got incepted, and then this was his second inception. And here is where Batman did this thing, but then Joker comes here, and this thing in Tenet represents this, and this red color in Tenet represents this, and they're going forward through time, and they're going backward through time in a temporal pincer movement. Like that. So I guess Christopher Nolan is, is as close to philosophy without being philosophy yet. At least that's what I draw on as my analogy to communicate it to you guys. Back to the book. Mean between the immortal and the mortal, or wisdom and ignorance, and finally between gods and man. Wow. Poverty, plenty, love, and Aphrodite, linking love as a medium between God and mankind. He showed how the levels of love match the cognitive functions of ignorance, right opinion, understanding, knowledge, and wisdom. These ways of relating to knowing express the way the logos unfolds as love becomes more comprehensive and extensive. Earlier we're talking about don't just make speeches about how physically beautiful someone is, because all the dummies might start competing with you because of how convincing you are in your words, especially if you're a philosopher. Instead, recognize that if love is based on understanding, you will go through more comprehensive, evolving levels. Sounds like fun.
Where's the joy? Where's the whimsy? Where's the childlike?
But this is probably the crazy. Okay, go ahead.
I'm too pure.
Jesus. Well, there you go again, Socrates. You add so much in a few words. I am intrigued by what you are saying and would like to hear more about these ideas. However, I do have a lingering question. You put ignorance into a class of cognition, but Jed isn't calling his shots here, guessing what the next shot's going to be, throwing up the three-pointer and saying off the glass and hitting it off the glass, is he? He's not calling his shots up in here, is he? Predicting what's going to be written next. Last time I did that, I shot my stuffy and I knocked a bunch of stuff over. So I'm not going to pretend to three-point shoot my stuffy. You put ignorance into a class of cognition, but isn't ignorance the total lack of any kind of knowing or cognition? There are different kinds of ignorance, Jesus. Here it means the state of mind of those who believe they know and boldly answer what they think they know, but then they are brought to see that they are wrong. and have to admit they know nothing about what they thought they knew. In that state, they are puzzled, as puzzled can be. It has been called being stung. Ooh. As if by a stingray. There we go.
Imagine people changing their positions and improving for the better.
Imagine.
No one seems to be learning or...
No,
This guy had to admit that the people in his life who helped convince him to be a conservative in the first place, parents, clergy, other authority figures, were wrong. Not only was wrong, but lied to him, and that he felt all of that, so much character.
There we go. Admit they were wrong, which takes so much character. Actually, I think he says courage as well in that soundbite. I was getting a bit carried away on my effects. Jesus continues. That is good. Oh, so yeah, different kind of ignorance. To be honest, honestly answer, boldly and honestly answer what you think you know, while being open to changing your mind, seeing that you're wrong.
Imagine people changing their positions and improving for the better.
And admit they know nothing. So often when a conservative or a lot of people see that they're wrong, they freak out, and they ever talk to a fundamentalist religious person, they freak out. Oh, shut up, you're going to hell, or let's talk about something else in the Bible, or... But this one you have to admit you know nothing. That's a good kind of ignorance. You're stung, you're open, you're receptive. Using Buddhist or Zen terminology, your cup is empty, ready to be filled. It's not full of ignorance. So that's the other kind of ignorance. Let's keep going. That is good. But would you explore further how your Plato brings love and logos into a unity? Oh. Gladly, Jesus. For it brings me pleasure to recall such ideas. The idea of love inspires those seeking fame and renown, those seeking the pleasures of lovemaking to bring birth children, those craftsmen, artists, and poets, and those seeking to bring justice within their families and cities. The highest among them are those seeking justice and wisdom, since they are driven by a love to participate in the realm of the sacred. Should you be interested in reflecting on how Plato brings us to the highest expression of love in the quest for wisdom, you should turn to his Symposium and Phaedrus. Calling my shots up in here again. We've been talking about the Symposium, and I briefly mentioned the the Phaedrus, as where I thought that quote came from, where he said, hey, I make speeches about how beautiful the girl is. Everyone, all the dum-dums will be convinced and start using their fame and renown or whatever to just because they just want to, have sex with her. Instead, talk about the works that could be brought to birth. Now, the highest among those are those seeking justice and wisdom, which is some people love being famous. Some people love doing the sexy times.
I'm too pure. I'm too pure. I'm too pure.
And having babies. Craftsmen, artists, and poets love their work and want to give birth works of art. And those seeking to bring justice within their families and cities. So the sorts of people who spend their time not rating appearance on a scale of 1 to 10, as Mark Zuckerberg's Facebook began, or as a lot of the brosphere podcast slop channels do, but the sort of people who are interested in understanding justice and bringing benefit and justice to the world. That's the highest kind of person, the highest kind of love. But not only that, within families too. That is harder for people in our modern age to recognize because we have yet to make clear to our whole world that the root cause of injustice comes from our families. The cruelty is the point nature of the right wing, of fascists, of the worst bastards in the world. They're imitating the cruelty of their parents. Trump's dad was a notorious KKK dude and a grifter and a sexual abuse and so on. Thus, the American KKK ICE Gestapo police. Thus, the abuse of women, taking away women's rights, subjugation of women. Thus, the grifting of the American populace to scam all the money is exactly an imitation of the injustice within his family playing out with the city. It's just that simple. Because you either learn justice through understanding or you imitate your earliest teachers through belief. It's just that simple. But of course, the simplicity of truth isn't the issue in this text, it's how we respond to the simplicity of truth. Because a common reaction will be, not my family. And if you're a MAGA, not even his family. But of course it's your family, it's everybody's. That's why we have midwifery, philosophical midwifery. So yeah, the highest kind of love are those seeking to bring justice within their families and cities. And by the way, that leads to also a desire to know the archetype or paradigm or principle. So we talk about the way of being of MAGA being, oh yeah, it's just the Nazi way of being. We have a system, we have a model. You'd be racist against everyone non-white, you'd be oppressive against women, and you act out your ignorance through violence. That's a way of being. There is no way of being for the left. It's all relative. Hey, just be nice to everyone. Just compromise with fascists. Just let politicians sell out to corporations. Doesn't matter. It's all a matter of opinion. There's no objective moral standard. That makes you a Nazi. I thought we were supposed to be tolerant of all beliefs and religions. Bullfucking shit. No. Religions do fucking genocide. Get over that bullshit by reading the Is It All Relative book and establish an objective, true principle of morality, ethics, politics, and spirituality, and it's called the Logos. And embrace that in a way of being, which we call love of understanding, that everyone can share in. So it's not a matter of, oh, what does this politician, oh, this Democrat decides to have a belief that he's going to sell out to some oil companies, like a lot of them do, or they're going to do insider trading, Nancy Pelosi, or they're just going to let Trump take over all of them. Oh, well, if that's what they believe, who are we to... No, not what... It's not about belief, you idiot. Belief is caveman shit. Understanding. No other professions. Oh, really? The architect just believes that the house doesn't need load-bearing walls? Oh, okay, if that's his... No! Understanding. Oh, the mechanic just has a strange belief that the car doesn't need petrol? No! Always understanding. So, those seeking justice, loving justice, will then be led to realize that the fundamental paradigm exists in Logos itself, which is apprehended in that cognitive function of knowledge. Whoops. Wait. That's where the Logos lives. Understanding leads you to that, and understanding springs from that. That's why he says justice with a capital J. One of the aspects of nous is the perfectly ordered rational system of pure being. That's the model of beauty in the symposium, but also justice. So the highest love is that, says Socrates. Let's keep reading. Some people have the idea of love inspiring them to seek Instagram famousness and to be the most popular slop tuber on YouTube. There are those who want to, who really love being a player and doing the sex with as many women as they can to have lots of babies. And then there are craftsmen and artists and poets. And then there are those who seek to bring justice to their families and to the world. The highest among them are those seeking justice and wisdom, which sounds like a step up from that last one, but they seem to be intertwined, don't they? Since they are driven by a love to participate in the realm of the sacred. Should you be interested in reflecting on how Plato brings us to the highest expression of love in the quest for wisdom, we should turn to his symposium, of which there is a series on the YouTube channel of this very stream, and the Phaedrus. Well, Socrates, says Jesus, I am wanting to hear more. In his symposium, he starts with love expressing himself in the love of beautiful bodies and in beautiful logos or speeches. Then he adds that it is a necessity to see that the beauty in all bodies is the same, and to go on to love those who have beautiful souls, and then to beget beautiful logos so that the young can find in love something good, noble and good. So, of the love of beautiful souls, and my lighting is rubbish because the sun is coming up and my colored light is on the fritz. I need to buy a new lamp. I guess I'm going this one. So the Logos now becomes about the so you start by making speeches about beautiful bodies, then see that all the same beauty you can recognize here and here in all bodies, it's the same beauty. Then beautiful souls, and then the words that you share with your beloved are such that they can become better. The young or the beloved find something good, noble and good in those words you share. He moves on to urge the love of beauty in our cities and customs, so that one can see a wider scope for love in the quest for beauty. These early stages lead to seeing beauty in different kinds of knowledge. Surely we know that this kind of knowledge shines forth from the very source of love and the Logos. For it is this that, okay. For it is this that prepares the soul for the final vision of beauty itself. Prepares the soul for the final vision of beauty itself. The experience of beauty opens the mind to the profound. That's better. For it alone can experience it. What experiences the profound? Mind alone. The experience is described with carefully chosen superlatives and balanced by negatives. Those familiar with the Parmenides might recognize, oh, hang on a second. Is there a hypothesis that has the highest kind of superlatives, but also balanced by negatives? It's a puzzle. What does that mean? The experience of beauty unfolds the nature of reality as truth.
I've been a bad little girl.
Hi.
It is from this state that a true excellence can emerge. Okay, that's interesting. So, you experience the ultimate. Mind itself is now receptive to the experience of the profound. The experience of beauty unfolds the nature of reality as truth. But that's not the end. It's from this state that true excellence can emerge. So it's the ground from which true human excellence emerges. That's fascinating. It is the crowning experience of the philosopher, brought into being by love, and perfected through Logos. Let's sit with that for a minute. So we have love playing an interesting role and functioning in two different ways with the beloved, the lover, and the act of loving. We have the role of the midwife, hooking up people who can give birth to this kind of excellence. The development of the highest levels of love is also an evolving through cognitive functions: ignorance, right opinion, understanding, wisdom or knowledge. That wisdom or knowledge experience is the crowning experience of the philosopher. It's brought into being through that kind of love. But it's perfected by the Logos. So from that experience, let's hope that experience has come about. That color's not good. Through the development of Logos, because It's from that state. It's from that state that excellence can emerge, true excellence. That's interesting because we say, okay, so the development of love, but also all of those stages of love is characterized by a guidance. So you read the symposium. So that's guided by the logos. But then when you are able to see these different levels of beauty that you love, you then give rise to, you add logos to it. So every stage is driven by love and then cultivated by logos. Beautiful bodies then make logo speeches. Beautiful souls then share beautiful logos that can make people better. Ultimately leading to the highest beautiful experience, the crowning experience of the philosopher, the experience of nous, or the brilliant light of being, or pure beauty itself, brought into it through love, but once again perfected by the logos. That perfection that humans or sentient beings go through from that experience of love. So the logos on that highest expression or loving experience or experience of beauty, brought into it beauty with love, perfected through the logos. The last kind is true excellence. Isn't that interesting? Considering we started this talk by saying, hey, this meaning of life that we're here to do, from belief-based thinking to understanding, is objective and true and for everyone, and is not a matter of debate or a matter of belief or political affiliation or religious affiliation. It's just true simply because understanding is that which removes the beliefs that cause human problems. And then once free from problems, so moving from sickness to health, it's also the improvement of health to excellence. Once free of what binds us to ignorance and, well, our false beliefs that bind us to ignorance and injustice, we use that freedom to then reach our highest excellence. And if everyone has problems and everyone seeks excellence, then it's just for everyone. It's just, that makes philodainoia, love of understanding, the meaning of life. And that's interesting because that's how we started our talk today, saying, oh, by the way, as true as that is, it's not going to mean much unless we also recognize the different ways human beings respond to that truth. People are not going to put down their MAGA hats or their Nazi flags or their Confederate flags when you tell them this. They're going to have some kind of reaction. And the better people are going to have better reactions, obviously. But also, we need to be able to recognize that, anticipate that, and maybe even see these levels of reaction as itself stages of cognitive development for human beings going through this process. So the best of us who's gone through this process can set up customs and laws within our families and cities for the ideal conditions for that movement for everyone. We can't all be doctors, well, at least to begin with. But those who are capable of being doctors can guide people through sickness to health and health to excellence. So what we started our talk with, and thus how cool this book is, because hopefully we are going to discover those things. But removing problems and reaching excellence, now we have a clear definition of exactly what that excellence is. Isn't this a good book? Out of 10, what would you give this book? If you don't give it 10, I will fight you. Because come on. Come on. Seriously though, come on. So that excellence ultimately is when brought to that crowning experience of reality, seen as the truth, as truth itself, the development of logos or understanding upon that experience. So we would even say, hey, that means this cognitive, these 4 stages of cognition leading to knowledge or wisdom. If we then apply logos to that experience, we have here understanding again. Understanding and reaching that, and then understanding in the development of from that highest experience of love, of beauty, reality, truth, into excellence. So we can even say maybe there's another one, another cognitive function here that we can recognize as our highest excellence. So understanding is, so this is again one of the fundamental reasons why we call it, we recognize the new way of being is philodainoia, the love of understanding, and not philosophy. Philosophy is the love of this. It may bring you to this experience, but it won't bring you to that experience in a way that you'll hold on to it unless you can also do midwifery to remove your false beliefs that cause you to spring back. So you need this as well as midwifery. But even when you do reach that, there is still understanding as a higher way of being beyond even the experience of the truth of reality. Meaning understanding would therefore be higher than knowledge or wisdom. And also understanding is needed for midwifery. So for those reasons, philodainoia is better than philosophy. I have to keep that in mind because next time somebody asks me, oh, what do you do other than play music? I'm into philosophy. Oh, I'll say, oh, actually, I'm into philodainoia. What's that? You know philosophy? Sort of. Well, imagine that everything you know about philosophy is wrong because it's based on Aristotle. Now, imagine what Socrates was actually saying is there's this experience of knowing the ultimate nature of reality, which is the highest experience a human can have. And also where you end up if you follow love with understanding. Now imagine something better even than that. That's philodainoia. And I expect by the time I get to the end of that sentence, they will have walked away. I guess I have to put in a song, that means, doesn't it? Right, let's go back. Actually, we're about 2 hours in. That feels like a fantastic note to end on. I had a big night of playing music, and I had gym, so I'm a bit sleepy. I want to keep reading, but I'm crashing. So, how awesome though! Oh my god, how awesome! Rate this book on Amazon 10 out of 10 stars, or I will find you and I will scold you. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have seen a lot yourself. I hope you are as inspired and excited by this book as I am, because holy fucking shit, it's exactly what's needed for everyone, for all of us, for all our relationships, and also for the justice within our families and cities. But that's secondary. Fixing the world's problems is secondary to that higher kind that we said. See one more time. Socrates was saying the highest kind of love is those seeking justice and wisdom, because that's a love of participating in the realm of the sacred, or this. This is the highest kind. This experience, and then the application of the understanding after, to go beyond that to reach our true excellence. That's the highest kind of love. Second highest kind of love, bringing justice from that, well, maybe that's part of the excellence, who knows? But from that direct experience of wisdom and justice itself, justice with a capital J, the model and paradigm needed, then you can then turn back and apply it to families and cities to bring justice, health, and excellence to the world. Please do. We need people like you doing that. Anyone watching this? That's a quest. Do that, and I will shout you a coffee. Everyone in our Discord will shout you a coffee. You pursue that highest kind of love for wisdom. Go on to add understanding to it to develop true excellence. Use both of those to bring justice to your family, to families in the world, and to all of the countries in the world. Everyone in the Discord will buy you a coffee. I promise. Okay? Sound fair? Or at least everyone in the Discord will put in some money to shout you a coffee. Sounds fair to me. Make sure you join the Discord so we can, so we know who to give the money for the coffee to. Or yeah, we know who to give the coffee to. So yeah, please do that. And I will see you in that button. Oh no, it's muted for some reason. Why is that muted? Hang on. That's crazy. I will see you in the next one. There we go. Thank you so much.